Okay, it's 5:30. We will call this meeting of the Public Works and Highways Committee to order. Attendance shows all committee members are present. I will entertain a motion for approval of the meeting minutes from May 13. Any comments or changes to the minutes? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Moving on to public comment. I'm assuming if there's anybody here not regarding the flood, then please come up. Yeah, please come up. And we'll keep flood questions for after we do our flood presentation, and you'll have a chance to talk.
Talk to the stepping stones of this building. And they cannot help me as regards to. Brought up in almost every 5. Why isn't taken care of? You know, I don't get any answers. It's like talking to a brick wall. Something has to be done. And it will continue until something is done. Because you're taking my money. It's costing me over $500 a year for garbage. $17 and some cents, I think, from Germantown that they add to my taxes for garbage pickup that I don't get. It's not fair. Something has to be done. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Obviously, that's not on the agenda, so will not be discussed tonight. Anybody else who's here for something other than the flood? Okay, then we will move on to unfinished business. We're going to have an update for the April storms and that situation.
So after our last Public Works meeting, we came away with a list of things we were going to investigate in the ensuing weeks. One of them was to investigate the increase in capacity. I'm sorry. One was to residents wanted to know the increase of capacity that was going to be built into Old Farm Lift Station with the upgrades. So we have Dave Arnott here tonight to talk about that. The other issue was a water bug that could be tied back into the village's SCADA system. The water bug option is going to be cost prohibitive because it'll cost about $25,000 per house that we would install that in due to the type of data collectors we use and the radios we use to get that signal back to the Public Works building. The other thing was residents wanted phone numbers that were going to get answered. We've made those corrections. Those numbers were posted on the village website as well as all village social medias, including fire and police and rec. And the other issue was looking at modeling of the Jefferson ditch. We did some investigation with the last consultant that engineering was working with. They were more tasked with inventory of the stormwater ponds and getting those numbered. However, through discovery, we did find that DNR and FEMA had done some in-depth elevation studies of the Jefferson ditch and actually the 2 square miles of drainage that feed the Jefferson pond area. And that was to determine new floodplain elevations for the new FEMA maps. I got that information kind of late in the week here, so I didn't feel comfortable presenting that information tonight without a little bit more QA/QC on that. So with that, I'll turn it over to Dave for his presentation on the capacity upgrades.
Oh, you had it right.
Okay, good evening. My name is Dave Arnott. I'm from Ruckert and Milky Engineers, and I'm here today to update the Public Works Committee on the updates to 2 critical pieces of infrastructure in the village on the sanitary sewer system side. And those are the two largest sewage lift stations in the village. They are the Main Street and the Old Farm lift stations and force mains. So planning for this project started about a year and a half ago. The village recognized that these are critical pieces of infrastructure. They were constructed in the late 1980s, so they're approaching 50 years old. And some of the components in the station have to be upgraded due to aging equipment. The capacity will be expanded, and the village is taking steps to make sure that this lasts for decades to come. It served the village well since 1988, and we want it to serve the village at least until year 2050. So this presentation is a quick overview of the project. Okay, the project objectives are more pumping capacity. So we will be adding more capacity at Main Street Lift Station. There was excess capacity based on our analysis a year and a half ago. We're going to add a little bit more capacity just to be safe. And we are expanding the pumping capacity at Old Farm Station by 37%. So that should help a little bit with these extreme wet weather events. We're going to be updating and replacing aging equipment. So that picture on the right-hand side of the screen, those are what's called motor control centers. Those do not last forever. The life of those is about 50 years. Inside, they have a number of motor starters and electrical components. And with time, they wear out. So these MCCs are approaching the end of their life. The village is getting in front of this by replacing them before they reach the very, very end of their life. Building maintenance, both the buildings are brick and block construction with an asphalt shingle roof. So as part of this upgrade, the buildings will receive a new steel standing seam roof, and we will conduct tuck pointing of the joints to restore the masonry on the outside and protect the cavity wall. And then we are replacing some valves inside the station, some piping, controls with the objective of increasing the resilience of the station and the force mains. We'll get to the force mains too. So these are some more specific improvements at both lift stations. So I mentioned Old Farm, we're increasing pumping capacity 37%. That picture you see there, that is one of the, I think it's from Main Street, but each station has 3 dry pit pumps, and they draw from a wet well and pump through the force main toward MMSD. The village will be using a channel grinder upstream of the wet well to break down solids and chop the solids into smaller pieces. And why that is important is because rags are not friendly to pumps. These pumps do clog. They're designed to pass solids as efficiently as possible, but with time they can clog, and that reduces capacity. So the idea with this channel grinder is it's going to be upstream of the wet well. As the water passes through the channel, any solids, rags in the wastewater will be ground up to smaller pieces, and then that allows the pumps to perform better and pass those through, and it will have reduced pump clogging. The wet wells, there are several cracks inside the wet wells. It's nothing serious, but we're going to fill those cracks while we're doing this project. We're going to increase the lighting in the wet wells as well. There is a diesel standby generator right now at each station. Right now, the village can't get parts for that generator. So we will be replacing that generator with updated equipment, with modern equipment that we can get parts to. We're going to be replacing the pump controls at each station. The supervisory control and data acquisition, that's the acronym SCADA. We're going to be updating that. So Tim and his crew will have more real-time information on the status of the stations. And then we talked about the building updates as well. So the force mains, that's the second part of the project. We are upgrading the force main system at each station. So we're going to have greater pipe area. We're going to be abandoning the original force main, which is ductile iron. In some parts of the village, the soils have shown to be very corrosive against ductile iron pipe. So we're going to be going with PVC pipe, which is corrosion resistant. At each station, there will be 2 force mains. So for Main Street, there will be 2 16-inch force mains, and at Old Farm Lift Station, there will be 2 20-inch force mains. So that will allow less pressure when the pumps are pumping at a very high rate. Like I said, that's because of we're using more pipe area. It's going to address the aging pipe that's in the ground now, and it'll take out that risk. In addition, the village will have redundancy for average daily flow rates. So a day like this, if there was some type of break in the force main, they could simply switch to the other force main. In peak flows, both force mains would be put online. All right, this shows the force main route. So this is for Main Street lift station. So the left-hand photo, the top there, that's Main Street pump station. So the force main goes south on Division Road. I couldn't fit this all on one slide. So as you go to the cutoff and at the bottom of the first picture, you go to the second picture, the top of the second picture is where it continues. And that terminates in that spot right there. So that's going to be the route, the pink pipe. Old Farm Station. Old Farm Station is located on Division Road. So Main Street pumps to a gravity system that eventually flows into Old Farm. So we're upgrading Main Street. Really the Achilles heel in the system from a sanitary sewage standpoint is Old Farm, and that's why we're expanding the capacity by 37%. Again, you see the pink line there. That's going to be the route of the 2 new force mains. So it goes south on Division and then east on Donjas Bay. And if you see there, the lower right-hand side, it'll discharge to an interceptor system that leads to Milwaukee MSD. So those are my updates for the committee. Right now, drawings are about 30%. We submitted a design study report to Tim last week, and that basically outlines all the improvements that are happening at each station, just so we're on the same page as the village and everyone has aligned expectations before we get down the road too far. So Tim and I will be coordinating in the next week or 2 to go through that report, make sure we have everything covered, and then we'll continue with our design. Bidding is scheduled for later on this winter and construction starting at Old Farm next spring.
How practically will this affect these people, if at all? Will this help eliminate flooding, or how? Let's say I have a flooded basement. Is this going to help me?
It will help marginally. The real issue with the flooding is due to stormwater. So there was an issue at Old Farm Station. We're going to increase the pumping rate 37%. That will help. We're going to have the standby generator be able to run all 3 pumps. Right now, the standby generator can only run 2 of the pumps. That was the industry standard when that station was designed and constructed in the late 80s. So we're going to add resiliency, but the real issue for the flooding is overland flow, overcoming crocks, water in basements, getting into the floor drains, which leads to the sanitary sewer. So it's kind of all one connected system.
Committee, Bob.
Thanks for being here, Dave. So just to be clear, the capacity of the lift station, Old Farm Lift Station was not exceeded during that April flood. That did not, we didn't have to do any bypass pumping. The pumps were keeping up with the flow. So by saying that it's nice that we're increasing the capacity by 37% in the future, it's really not, the concern wasn't, the basements weren't backing up because this pump station couldn't keep up with the flow. I mean,
That's correct.
That's a big difference that everybody needs to understand. And this isn't going to fix everything. It certainly increases capacity. I think the limiting thing right now with the one force main, it's the pipe, it's not the pumps, correct?
Correct.
So the two pumps now, or the two pipes will allow that you can get it now downstream, even though you could pump it, if the pipes may not be able to accept it. So that'll help that.
Right. The two pipes will have more total area than the existing pipe, allowing for a high pumping rate, a lower pressure.
And I think really what this will do for us in the future is that less sanitary sewer bypassing because of our capacity to do that. But we still have the issue of overland flow that can create problems with the basements. I think these are two different issues here
They are,
that we're
correct.
talking about. Yeah.
Yes.
How did you, one last question, how did you come up with the 37% increase?
We did a study for the village and we looked at existing peak flow rates and then we looked at planned development within the village and we looked at the new sanitary sewer service area boundaries and we did some projections and that's how we came up with the needed capacity.
Okay, because I hear some concerns from some residents, valid concerns, that the impression is this can't handle the existing flows, and now we're adding all of these subdivisions and additional roofs. Now you really are gonna have problems, and that's not the case.
That's not the case.
We're planning for the future. If we didn't
Right.
do anything now, we might get to exceed the capacity of this lift station, but we're kind of ahead of the curve
Yeah,
here.
we always want to be ahead of the curve and we're planning for the future. For year 2050, at year 2050, you should have enough hydraulic capacity in these stations.
Thank you.
I have another question. If this stormwater is a problem, running into the sewer system and running all over, flooding the rivers, et cetera, is there any way we can help control that? Do we dredge the ditch? Do we,
Dredging the ditch will certainly give you. Dredging the ditch will certainly give you more storage. But the limiting factor is going to be the discharge rate out of those ponds, which is set by code. It's set by state code, the maximum discharge rate out of that system. And when the Menominee River is over the outlet structure of that stormwater feature, it's not going to drain out. That's why it took so long this time for all that water to recede out of the neighborhood, out of the ponds, and get back to a normal freeboard. Everything was just so saturated at that time when this rain event happened. Everything was, the Jefferson ditch was already at above normal water levels when, the rains of that week of April happened.
and the Jefferson ditch goes to the Menominee River?
Correct.
And Menominee River goes to Menominee Falls?
Correct, which is the first downstream control structure. They have a spillway that you can see off of Main Street where the falls is. It's not the actual falls that name Menominee Falls. That's further to the south. But that control structure is there to protect the downstream areas in Menominee Falls. And we work very closely with Menominee Falls when we have high rain events, that we're working with them to open that overflow structure as much as possible to relieve what's happening in Germantown, because really there's nothing we can do. It's the control structure is in Menominee Falls, which is why during the April or the August event, we were taking such extreme measures down on County Line Road to move the water from Germantown to Menominee Falls to get it out of our community to protect our infrastructure down there by Fleet Farm. I mean, we pumped over 58 million gallons of water in 4 days. And that was to protect that one station. So that, and that was constant communication. Can you give us another 3 inches on the spillway? Nope, we can't, or we're going to lose stuff in our own community. So it's a balancing act when you get these extreme rain events of, you know, you want your response to be, we'll do whatever it takes to move everything out of here as quickly as possible. But sometimes those are just not reasonable expectations.
So Tim, in Bob's perfect world, if we didn't have any control structure at Jefferson Creek and it drained as fast as it could, would we have the flooding problem? I know it's a tough question.
Would you have a flooding problem? It depends on.
Yeah,
the
ignoring-
nature of these storm events.
This is my perfect world. I don't care about people downstream or anything like that. I just want to get the water out of here.
Say an April event.
The extreme would be if we didn't restrict that flow at all.
If we didn't restrict the flow and you had August event, you're
Oh.
still going to experience flooding.
August, yeah, April.
If you didn't restrict flow and we had a 100-year event back in April, it probably wouldn't have been to the extent that it was. But we're limited by state code.
Well, I
why-
understand. That's why it's my perfect world, okay, without limitations in that. And I don't know if there is a process where you would say to the agency that controls the limitations as you go downstream to reevaluate this because of weather, because we're seeing more flooding that we never used to. Could somebody take a look at this hydraulically and allow us to release more water than we used to because of recent events?
That'd be DNR? Would
Well,
that
we
be-
would start with MMSD because they have jurisdiction on the Menominee River. But they only have maintenance jurisdiction through Milwaukee County.
Do you think we could get an MMSD representative in to talk about flooding and that type of thing?
We could look into that. if
I think that would be informative for everyone.
Because what everybody's hearing here is it's nice, we're upgrading the pump station, but it doesn't have anything to do with the flooding I just had.
But if we can't send more water downstream, we're always going to have something going on.
And I want to make sure we explore all opportunities there, talking to MMSD just to see
And
if we can release more water somehow.
we know that we have a limitation in the current forebay of the Jefferson Ditch. The forebay is the pond that's immediately west of the bridge, because we had scour during the August event, and you see that big channel of stone that the ducks and geese are using as their little island now. All that material was scoured out from underneath that bridge, and it was actually protecting pipes underneath that bridge. And part of the reconstruction of Division Road that's on the agenda tonight is going to address that scour, and all that material is going to be removed. And there's going to be some protective measures taken to protect that bridge from future events,
Yeah, because
heavier riprap and
Goose,
stuff like that.
Goose Island is affecting your hydraulics.
Right.
Could we make the Jefferson Ditch deeper, or is that not a possibility?
You can, but all that is going to do is give you more
Capacity to
storage,
hold for a while.
capacity to hold.
Yeah, which could help potentially.
You're limited to groundwater. You can get into groundwater, which then you're done. Yeah. But I think it's worth exploring with MMSD just to certainly be nice to have somebody come here and
I would like to have somebody come in
Yeah.
and talk about flooding. I'm sure the MMSD is hearing from Menominee Falls got flooded again, Tosa got flooded again. So they should have some insights on this, what can be done that maybe on their part, seeing that they control a lot of structure as well. I think it might be worth it. I don't know. It's from my limited viewpoint. Jan?
Thank you. Yes, I wanted to bring forward, and I gave information to Tim. I was looking for something on Washington County website, and I came across hydrology and a Dave Backus, I believe, was that the name? Backhouse. And it's something that, to your point, Bob, that I think has to go hand in hand with all the things that R.A. Smith is doing with our lift stations. I mean, that's great, but I happened to drive across two rivers on that April night, and one was on Lilac Lane and the other one was just north of the bridge on Division Road going south. And it was scary. I didn't know if I'd get through, but I'm okay. Anyway, so to me, it seems like, and then our actual floodplain from FEMA, I believe, was sketched differently than it has been. So that may impact, but it says that Washington County will conduct a comprehensive floodplain study for the Menominee River watershed to address chronic flooding, targeting the reaches of the wetland primarily within the village of Germantown and portions in the village of Richfield and Menominee Falls. The project area represents some of the last remaining large blocks of undeveloped area in the Menominee River watershed. And some of the watershed, I don't believe, I don't know if those specific wetlands can be developed. You know, some you can, some you can't.
So this comprehensive study was a product of the August
Right,
flooding.
yeah,
So we worked with Washington County Emergency Management. We wrote in favor of the county going for this grant
yes,
because as a local municipality, it's not the proper order for us to commission a study on a river that we have no jurisdiction on. So that either has to come from DNR or from the county itself because we're within Washington County. So this is a great first step.
right.
Hopefully the grant gets funded
Mhm.
because there's been a lot of, promises made and promises not kept.
I understand. So it's as Bob mentioned, trustee Warren, it's like a two-prong. We have to look at different things to make everything secure. I had a question about your proposal for R.A. Smith. I just wanted to understand, you're putting in two new pipes, and that's great. They're force mains, right?
Correct,
One's a 16-inch, and that's at Main Street,
correct.
and the other one's 20, and that's at Old Farm. So does that mean when you say two pipes are going to be activated if you need them, are you leaving the current piping in? Are you laying new piping?
We're putting two new pipes in the ground and we're going to abandon the existing force main
Okay,
because we think that pipe is in probably questionable condition.
sure.
There are
sure.
a lot of unknowns with that pipe.
That's like an iron pipe, did you say?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's ductile iron.
So we brought that study to committee back in April, if you remember. It was one of the
Yeah.
additional areas we had R&M study. Another consultant had suggested going with the parallel force main as an option because lining a 50-year-old existing pipe
Question.
might not be as cost effective as just putting in two new pipes. And through their analysis and discovery, it was proved out that that was the right way to go. It was two brand new pipes and abandoning the old.
Okay,
Yes.
yes. PVC's got to be cheaper than iron.
Anything else?
No, those are my questions.
If
Thank you.
anybody else has a question or comment, hopefully you filled out a form and you're free to come up to the microphone. And I would say expect another update on the flooding, probably in July or August, when we can get MMSD in here to talk about controlling this as it goes downstream. Oh,
No,
My name is Chris Pevek. I live at North 106, West 17321 Wildflower Lane. We did have sewage backup in our basement both in August and April and are certainly looking forward to resolutions to these issues, which seem difficult to find. I do have a couple of questions related to the report that was just made, and I was unable to attend last month's meeting, but I did have the delight of watching it online this afternoon. And I have a couple of follow-up questions. So Tim, you had mentioned at that meeting that CCTV sanitary sewer review was done. And you said at that meeting, no defects of significance on Juniper, but you didn't say anything about Wildflower Lane. Could you
We did,
clarify?
so our initial thought was maybe during the August event with the bridge scour that occurred on Division Road. We have a interceptor sewer that runs underneath that bridge, and we know that the 12-inch water main that runs under that bridge is currently exposed because the bedding stone washed down into the forebay. Sanitary sewer is only 4 feet deeper than that water main. So our concern was that is the scour deep enough that it affected the interceptor sewer that runs under that bridge? And we had Great Lakes TV and Seal in town a week after the rain event because our equipment isn't big enough to televise those large diameter pipes. And they found that there was no compromise whatsoever in the interceptor sewer that runs under the bridge. So my staff actually did the TV work in Willowwood subdivision, and we found absolutely nothing in Willowwood other than a persistently running sump pump and a persistently running lateral that was on, Travis is here, correct me if I'm wrong, is that Willowwood Court? So Willowwood Court, the existing house that development was built around, so the existing farmhouse, we found a broken sanitary sewer cleanout that was broken off quite deep in the ground, so it was acting as a French drain, draining the whole neighborhood, if you will. And we also found a illegally connected sump pump in that basement. We have made contact with the owner of that property who lives in Florida for most of the year, and he is making arrangements to get those defects corrected. But those were the only things of significance we found when we televised those lines.
Okay, thanks. You also mentioned that the lower third of Willowwood subdivision, which would be those of us who had the sewage situation, has dedicated storm sewer. Can you explain to me what that means and?
Yeah, so there's,
Impact us?
you look at that subdivision, there aren't any inlets along the curb line until you get to Willowwood Court. And then all of the homes from Willowwood Court south, if you look at your basement wall, your sump pump is connected into a 6-inch pipe that goes through the wall of your basement, probably about 4 or 5 feet down on the wall. That is tied, it's a sealed system tied directly to the storm sewer out in the road. And then there's a few road inlets that are also tied to that, as well as a significant field inlet that is in the backyard of the existing house where we have the issues with the sanitary cleanout and the illegally connected storm sewer or sump pump. So the upper half of the subdivision all comes through that field inlet by that particular house, and it hits that storm sewer, and then all the road drainage hits the inlets, and that 10-inch pipe filled up very quickly that night, and it rendered sump pumps that were direct connected into it useless because of hydraulic lock.
So are you saying to me that the sump pumps on Wildflower Lane are direct connected to the sewer?
Correct.
Okay,
Unless, I don't know if you're the original owner of your home.
no,
Unless somebody at some point in time redirected their sump pump to discharge into their yard.
Okay.
But I am not aware, when I look at the as-built plan for Wildflower Drive, everybody, there's about 10 homes that are direct connected into a dedicated storm line for sump water.
we are not also.
Anybody else?
We're all ours goes out the river.
In that direction.
Well, let's see, now there's new information again. So, I don't know when those were changed. Do you have a 6-inch pipe in your basement wall?
No, our crack cell, it comes through and out the basement wall. Daylights.
It daylights in your yard? Okay. Do you back up? Do your home, I don't know where you live, so I apologize. Do your homes back up directly to the stormwater management pond for the subdivision? Okay, well, that would explain why then, that those, there's probably only 3 or 4 of you that is how that works.
Saying that everybody else on Wildflower is connected to this system? There is some.
To the storm sewer system, not the sanitary. Everybody's connected to the sanitary for your sanitary waste. No, that's how it should be. There's one house where we found it's illegal to discharge a sump pump into the sanitary sewer. Because sanitary sewers are sized to handle normal domestic waste. The highest flow typically you get in a home is when you flush a toilet. It's that initial surge of about 1.5 gallons, followed by somebody in your house that takes a really long shower, and then your washing machine. So sanitary pipes are designed much smaller to handle normal domestic flow. Your storm sewers are designed to handle typically a 10 or a 25-year normal storm event. And for whatever reason in Willowwood subdivision, this 10-inch pipe was put down the middle of the road, and there's about 20 homes that are direct connected into it. And that water is directed then into your community stormwater pond, which is behind your home,
So this could be problematic for us.
potentially.
Just a comment on the communications issue. You had mentioned that the website was updated with new phone, or updated with the correct phone numbers, so we appreciate that. I think it would be a nice gesture for those of us who are living in these affected communities to also get that. Not everybody comes to these meetings or looks on the website. Some people don't have computers. For that information to be sent out to the residents of this area.
So just so you know, we're gonna have it on the back of the second quarter water bill. So when you get your water bill statement, it'll be on the back, with the 3
Yeah.
new numbers.
I mean, personally, I think that it would be, given that we've all been affected, a lot of people don't read those. There's a lot of stuff that comes on those bills. A lot of information gets added to that. Just have, I mean, I don't know how many homes it is. It can't be more than 30 homes. Maybe it is, but that would be, I think, a nice gesture from the committee or
Okay.
to do something like that. So we know whom to call, and when and how.
Yeah, we
Um,
can investigate that.
The other communication.
Make sure they get that phone
Thank
number.
you. The other communications issue that came up related to people calling the non-emergency number, maybe it was even 911. Was there any invest in not getting the appropriate response?
We did. I tasked the police chief with looking into that, and there was quite a communication breakdown at Washington County that night. Because not only were there Germantown residents calling that they had issues, there were people in Slinger, and there were people in West Bend, and there were people all over Washington County. And we did find that we were able to track the actual phone call and what the disposition of it. And it played out as you folks said, that you were placed on hold, or you were given misinformation, or your phone call was not properly redirected. That was all vetted. The police chief is going to take care of breakdowns with his staff. I didn't feel it was my spot to, discipline police officers or have conversations with them. And then the simplest solution to move forward was just to eliminate Washington County out of the equation altogether. They are no longer part of this equation
For the non-emergency.
for non-emergency or emergency.
with flooding.
with flooding.
And anything Public Works related has now been removed of any responsibility of the county. So during the day, if you dial 4721, it's going to ring to Heidi. If Heidi is not at desk, her voicemail will tell you, please leave a message. And if this is an emergency, to please call. And then there's an 800 number. That 800 number will be answered by our contracted answering service 24/7, 365, which is what we had to do to get recall for our emergency response after hours, whether it's for snow removal, a water main break, or whatever, when we lost in-house dispatch over here at our own police station. So the tool had already been in place. It was just how that tool was being used, because initially we still had dispatch on first and second shift while the transitions were occurring up in Washington County. So it was just easier to have our people in-house people at the PD
Mhm.
flip that switch at the end of their shift and push it to the county, with the understanding that the county was supposed to push those phone calls to the answering service. So we've eliminated that.
Mhm.
So even during the day, if you call our 800 number, you're going to get somebody on the end of the line that's going to answer the phone. Village of Germantown, what's your emergency?
And
But
for-
that's not to be used if you need police or fire services. It's only for Public Works.
okay, so if someone does call 911,
If somebody does call 911, hopefully it gets routed directly to our answering service and not to some of the things that happened that night. Was Washington County was taking the 911 calls from you folks and sending it to the sergeant on duty. Well, the sergeant on duty he doesn't have a list of phone numbers of who's on call and who to contact for this or that. He's supposed to be the supervisor on shift for the police department. So if you call 911, they should be redirecting it to the 800 number.
I had a question probably for Dave. If he's our seller. You had indicated that part of the new plan is that there would be technology in the new system that would provide real-time info on status of stations. Can you explain how, what technology is there now and what is in the proposed technology? And in the scenario of these monumentally heavy rains, would this real-time info assist in overflow release or whatever that is called?
So some of the control system at the lift stations controls, again, a control panel life is about 40 to 50 years. So inside a control panel, you have starters, you have PLCs. The life of a PLC is 8 to 10 years. So those have been upgraded. Those are programmable logic controllers. So what those do is they vary the speed at which the pumps are pumping, and they control which pumps are pumping. There's a rotation and how fast they're pumping based on the wet well level. So those equipments, it's really it's an age issue again. It's not going to provide any more information than Tim has right now in these extreme weather events.
Will there be anything that would automate when, I know there isn't a switch that's flipped, but would automate when that overflow when the dump has to occur?
So typically what happens is the stations are kind of autonomous. They run themselves. They run for 8 hours. They switch to the next pump in line that runs for 8 hours and so on. There's 3 pumps. When flows increase, we have a series of controllers in there that, turn on an alarm. And the first alarm that goes off is what's called a high wet well level. So that means we either fail to pump, fail the VFD, or we actually have high flow. And that's actually what happened that night. is, we lost a motor starter on one of the pumps, and my on-call guy happened to be Travis. He's in the back row.
Which night are we talking about? April or August?
April,
April 14.
right?
April 14?
No, April. April.
The night we had, yes, April 14th, Tuesday, April 14th. So Travis was in by, I believe it was 8:30 that night. He was in, and he was in for the duration of the night. And he called in extra people as needed, and the wet well level did rise. And they were proactively, they brought the bypass pumps out. But it stopped rising and it stabilized, and we weren't at critical elevation because our known critical elevation is over on Autumn Drive and Whitetail Run, Meadow Creek Crossing, which is a subdivision that's a half-mile away from you. That's where we were monitoring levels in the collection system, and those levels had stabilized. So at that point, we made a decision not to start an overflow because we didn't have any further data that we had sewage in anybody's basements. We had people, by midnight, we had 3 staff in. Highway Department was mobilizing to clear off storm inlets because of the amount of overland flooding that was occurring. And I think by 3 o'clock in the morning, there was probably 12 people in working, clearing inlets and monitoring pumps. And it wasn't until 8 o'clock in the morning when Heidi started checking her voicemails is when we first found out that we had sewage in people's basements.
So I have a question. So Tim, if we had found out, if the communication had gone smoothly the evening of the flood, some of this could have potentially been eliminated.
We probably would have initiated an SSO had we known the impact that was occurring over in your neighborhood.
So you mentioned there's a monitoring site 6 blocks or whatever, half a mile south of us. Is there discussion in the new system to put additional monitoring locations out, especially in these
It's
areas?
it's not a monitoring location such as, there's a sensor in there it's actually a person going over there with a tape measure, popping the lid on a manhole and measuring the liquid level. Right. So it's very accurate, but it's not sophisticated.
So
in the future, yes,
could it happen right away? If it's just a manual.
Yeah, it
That's done.
was happening right away. But that is where we were measuring. We didn't know we had an impact upstream. Because that is our known area of,
The low point.
that's the low point of the system.
The 6 blocks
Mhm.
south. But knowing that our particular communities are impacted, could that monitoring also be done?
It can, yes,
Yes.
absolutely. In the
And could it
future,
be done
it will
with
be.
an extra
Absolutely,
Okay.
yes.
Yes.
And one other question, I'm sure you can chime in on this, is timeline. So I know when your company did the original study and made recommendations, it set a suggested timeline that I think is at least a year behind already. And I want to know from this committee whether you are committed to keeping the timeline on track. I don't know what potential hiccups there are as it proceeds to village board, potentially budgetary, I don't know, but what is the likelihood that it will be accomplished on the timeline you're talking about today? With bidding going out at the end of the year and work beginning in spring of 2027.
Like, what are the schedule busters?
Yeah, Tim, what could hold it up? Anything?
Yeah, so the biggest schedule buster right now, and we're trying to work through this, is we have a sanitary sewer service area amendment working its way through the Department of Natural Resources, and it's been stuck there for almost 9 months. And the hangup is the population projections that were used, which came out of our own Village 2050 plan, does not jive with the Department of Administration
Department of Administration,
at the
yes.
state. They don't agree on those population estimates. So we're having a meeting next week with DNR to try to work through this and get that SSSA back on track because we cannot get our facilities plan. Our collection system facilities plan has to get approved first, and then this facilities plan for the upgrade to these 2 stations are next. So we have 3 things that have to get through DNR. We're hoping, that's why we're pushing right now to get design done. Because I think once we get the initial SSSA approved, the other 2 approvals are going to be turned around in a matter of days. And we want to have these plans ready to go and hit the street when those approvals come in. So right now, the only hiccup I see is the DNR. And we're doing everything we can to keep
Mhm.
pushing them along.
Well, at any point, if there's messaging that you'd like members of the community to get to DNR also, I don't know, that could be helpful or
It-
hurtful, who knows?
The regulatory side of DNR is kind of an animal all on its own, and they don't really react to public outcry at all. They have to follow the procedures set in
Okay.
state code.
All right. thank
But
you.
our company has not slowed down in the design, nor has the village directed us to slow down. We were awarded the project in, I think it was February,
Yep.
and we're continuing to go.
The reason there was that initial delay was the village was working through the sanitary sewer service amendment for the Richfield area.
Mhm.
And that had to work its way through Sewer Pack and MMSD before it went to DNR. And there was some back and forth between Sewer Pack and the village that they wanted nice, clean breaks of parcel instead of, cutting out different subdivisions and stuff. And there was quite a bit of pushback, especially from some of the larger subdivisions up to the north, Isabel Farms being one of them. They had no interest whatsoever in being in the sanitary sewer service area, and the village didn't really have an interest in bringing them in also because once you bring parcels into your sanitary sewer service area, those parcels become chargeable for capital costs through MMSD, and it's based on equalized value, not anything else. And so it's basically a tax. And you bring in homes of the magnitude of Isabel Farms on a tax levied by another taxing jurisdiction, it could be quite significant to the village.
Tim, does DNR talk to MMSD and Sewer Pack? Do they really all communicate like on a flooding issue? They should be, I would think.
Yeah, so every time there's a sanitary sewer overflow, we all have to file paperwork. Paperwork gets filed with the DNR. We have to notify MMSD. We have to notify all the drinking water intakes downstream. So there is quite a bit of initial communication. And then what the DNR and EPA do is they evaluate, was this a justifiable overflow? And it's usually based on, the intensity and the duration of the storm event. And they characterize it as an extreme equipment of failure. And then ones like August and April here, they actually fall under what DNR calls act of God. There's nothing the village could have done to prevent having an SSO. There's nothing the village could have done to prevent damage to private property. The goal is to mitigate it as quickly as possible and to plan for the future to try and mitigate, but you can't mitigate these extreme storms. You just can't.
And April was the 100-year, you said?
April was 100-year and August was 1,000.
Right. Well, 1,000-year I get, but one of the things that in our conversations on all of this that we've been brainstorming is I would love to hear from DNR too on this flooding issue as well as MMSD, because maybe we shouldn't be building ponds at new developments that only can accommodate, what do they do for a pond now, a retention pond?
So a typical retention pond in the development is, I believe they're supposed to be designed to 100-year storm event and release at a 10-year rate. But those are ponds that are post 2009, I believe, and the ones before that had a different set of standards because they updated the
But
standards.
I guess my point is, we talked about this a little bit, maybe those standards need to change if we're going to continue to have the severity of these storms, that we should know, we should be requiring these developers to build for the 200-year flood or something, even if it means taking some additional land away or making the pond deeper or whatever. But these are all questions that we've been asking and trying to figure out what we can do. And one thing I would like to see in the future, certainly of MMSD in here to present to us, flooding and where they're coming from on this, because they control the Menominee River. They control the sewer pipes going into the deep tunnel. They control all of that. And we are upstream from all of that. And I don't know if DNR, they came for when we had a crab problem. I mean, why wouldn't they flood problem? I mean, this is a lot bigger than a crab problem or crayfish or whatever you call it. I would love to hear DNR and what they're planning to do in the future to help with municipal flooding. And I personally, I think that's part of their job and we should at least ask.
Barry? I had a question. To address this potential delay because of DNR not getting back to us, is your design that tight where depending on which way DNR weighs on this, that it would cause you to redesign something or you spend a month redesigning because of the decision that the DNR made?
It's not that tight.
Yeah.
So I can see maybe a few days having to redesign something
Yeah,
on a pumping rate for 100 or 200 gallons per minute.
yeah.
So our goal is in order to be eligible for Clean Water Fund, we submit 90% plans and specs to DNR by September 30th of this year.
Irrespective of when they come up with their approvals and that you guys are still chugging away on it.
Correct?
So it's really not a delay.
Just to be clear on that, so they already have the facilities plan, is that what they have?
We submitted and the village submitted the lift station facilities plan and the collection system facilities plan last August.
Right, so are there any other potential pitfalls, potentially within the village of getting this approved, getting the funding? Is the funding already there?
No, the funding is currently not there. We are applying for a Clean Water Fund loan to do the work, which is a low interest loan through the state of Wisconsin.
And that's a competitive process. So the scoring for the village came out about 6 weeks ago. The good news is the village is in about the top 20% of scoring. So the village scored well. So we're hopeful that the village will secure a 20-year low interest rate loan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christy. Anybody else would like to come up, ask a question? I think what we can say in the future, I don't know how long it takes to get MMSD in here and to contact DNR, but we will be having yet another update either in July or August for sure.
Hi, Randy Ruskowski, North 106, West 17113 Juniper Drive. I'm the second house in on Juniper Drive from Division. So it is good to see that there's some action taking place. I do want to, I guess, challenge the notion that, you know, things were kind of operating at their capacity and it was a lot of the storm water that was causing the issues. Probably was, in part, we can all acknowledge there was a lot of rain. But, you know, we've been here for 36 years and lived in that house for 36 years. And if you look at just basic numbers, Germantown has nearly doubled in size. And much of the development has been around these areas or feed into the areas that are having the most problems right now. So if in hearing what this study had to say is that the equipment hasn't been upgraded, you know, in a long time, and it's long overdue. So that's like if you look at like nearly doubling its size in the population, it's, you know, that's nearly 100% increase of that's all got to go somewhere. So just with some basic math, it seems like that's a lot of extra strain on in capacity. So I'm not sure where again, I have the same question of is that the right bump in capacity? Maybe, I don't know. It doesn't feel good to hear that. Well, it might help, but we're not really sure it's going to help much though. So maybe, and I'm not sure what facts and data went into increasing that capacity, but living there for 36 years and just the increase in population suggests to me that it needs some additional help and maybe even more than what's there right now. But the other question I have is beyond the pump capacity and all that, if stormwater is the problem, and this has come up a couple times today, can't we create more capacity for that stormwater elsewhere, not just downstream, but upstream? Why can't we look at, I still think this is kind of an engineering problem to solve that, can we control the water better so that we don't have it all bunching up in one area causing all these problems and have several homes that are at risk on a regular basis. So I don't know if you have any comments on that. Anything additional?
I know MNSD has a Green Seams program, which does that upstream. Because I live in that area where they have 100 acres to absorb water, and that didn't help anything. I don't know, Bob, what do you think as an engineer?
Well, each subdivision has detention basins. And the intent of that is to try to retain the water, slow the water down from it all hitting the system at one time. It comes down to how well are they maintained in the different subdivisions? Is it enough capacity? They're only designed for storms that was exceeded in April. So current designs, even if they are maintained, aren't going to help you much when the water's that heavy. I don't know if, Tim, you have.
So you've obviously lived in the neighborhood a very long time. You remember when the Jefferson Ditch ponds were not there.
Yes.
So the Jefferson Ditch ponds were created after back-to-back extreme rain events that occurred in June of 96 and again in June of 97.
Mhm.
And I was the lucky one that got to go under air and walk 72-inch pipe from Pilgrim Road all the way down to Auburn Lane. And what we found during that event was that the water never made it into that pipe because there weren't enough inlets. So out of those two rain events, a storm sewer line was relayed down Scarlet Drive, and the creation of the Jefferson Ditch ponds occurred. And those two floods impacted your neighborhood tremendously and the Old Farm neighborhood because those subdivisions with the density that they have were never built with stormwater retention ponds because those didn't exist back then. So the Jefferson Ditch was created to manage the stormwater flow off of a 2 square mile area where stormwater retention ponds didn't exist. So that's how the Jefferson Ditch evolved, right? It became a regional stormwater pond, if you will, to capture and release that water slowly back to the Menominee River. We know we have capacity issue currently with the forebay because of the scour. How much that's impacting, if we had the rain today that we had on April 14th, we're not sitting here. We had saturated soils. The ground could not absorb any more moisture. We had hydraulic conditions where soils were swollen, pushing against basement walls, and then we had a tremendous surge of overland water. Liquid doesn't compress. It looks for a release point. And unfortunately, the release point for a lot of homes was the floor drain in the basement because just upstream of you, several blocks away, there was a power outage that lasted for almost 8 hours. Nobody's sump pumping those homes were working unless you had a battery backup or a generator. And all those floor drains then discharged into the sanitary sewer, overflowed it, and that's what happened.
Yeah.
Related to that, if I could ask a question of Dave, where's Dave? As far as forecast, we talk about the power outages and the sump pumps typically won't work unless you have backup in that. So that water is going into the sanitary sewer through the floor drains and that. Is any of that taken into account as far as those flows that are coming or contributing to the system? I mean, I hear about, we look at forecast, population forecasts and that, the amount of developments and that, but we never, it just kind of came to me. It's like, do we look at, let's assume there's a power outage in this area. We're going to get a lot more water from sump pumps going into the floor drains, getting into the system. Is any of that contingency considered?
It is. So when we do, just, yeah,
Yep.
when we do our projections, we account for a certain degree, certain amount of gallons per person per day for inflow. And that inflow would be kind of what we're talking about, water getting into the sump pumps, getting into the system. And then we also have a factor that takes into account infiltration. So that's groundwater, high groundwater getting into all the cracks in the sewer pipes. And on top of that, we have a peaking factor that is typically used to account for some of these extraneous situations.
So there's a lot of contingency built into it. Specifically, one of the reasons for the flooding is these pumps, the sump pumps not having power. And now that water is into the sanitary sewer. That is accounted into your designs.
To some degree,
Right.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
When you say to some degree, are we comfortable with the 37%?
Yes, we are. Yeah, that was looked at very carefully.
That's who you ask, I guess.
Any other questions, sir?
Yeah, so I guess I would respectfully ask if there's things we can do to create more capacity or at least look at potential areas where there might be some options that would help. I think, everyone who's been showing up here is like anything that could help is what we're asking for. Separate item, talking about the kind of the early warning system where you have some sense of there's an emergency going on. I know you, Tim, had mentioned earlier that there was cost prohibitive. Isn't there, I mean, is there something a little bit more simple that we can do to just like when we have these extreme events that there's ways to, even if it was just one house that's in a very strategic location could notify, get an early notification out?
We did identify a product that functions on Bluetooth, where you can have multiple sensors either in a home or in multiple homes, and they all feed back to a central data collector. And then somebody would have to use their smartphone, monitor that, right? Because they don't have the distance capability. We would need to have it come back to a central control area. So, I mean, if that's something that, you as a resident wanted to install for your own peace of mind, that would be an option. And then if it goes off, you call us, call the 800 number.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be an option.
Okay.
Is that expensive? Do you know?
I just, I don't know if you've heard of Amazon or not, but I just went on to Amazon and looked at sensors for water leaks in basement, which would alert the homeowner on your phone. And then you could make the call. So as far as alerts, that's one way of a little more comfort. And these things are like $20 from what I'm seeing, or 20 or $50.
So just to be clear, I have heard of Amazon. I'm
Awesome.
wondering if the village has, so.
Well, it's,
But, I guess the goal would be, and I don't, you know more the solutions is to try to, because these events obviously can happen at any time, and in the past, they've happened in the evening. Or like at night, in the middle of the night, is to try to not have to have someone, the village residents, something that's a little bit more automatic, which is something that sounds like you looked in. But it sounded to me before, like you said, we'd have to, kind of install it in multiple places. And I was just asking if we just took one place, is it an easier or cheaper solution? And
Tim?
I guess, yeah.
So we put it in your house and it doesn't go off, and your neighbor 2 doors down has 3 inches of sewage or water in their basement, right? So there's no perfect solution. I guess knowing what happened April 14th, we have a new critical elevation to monitor. So our staff will be out there during these rain events, monitoring with a tape measure and a human being. You have my assurance on that, just like we currently do at Autumn Drive and Whitetail Run.
Isn't there an automated way to do
Yeah,
that?
that's really
What,
where I
like
was
a alarm would go off or something instead of
There
a
is, but
tape measure or?
There is, but these events happen so few and far between that you're going to invest tens of thousands of dollars
Okay,
to put sensors
In the manhole, I mean.
Yes.
Oh, that's how much
Yeah,
it costs.
they're
Okay.
Tens of thousands of
Yeah.
dollars. And it's called an SL rat, right? It's an ultrasonic thing. It constantly pings that manhole and it looks for abnormalities in the level in the manhole. And when it senses them, it alarms out,
Yeah.
right? But in
Too
order,
expensive,
yeah, for something that happens, that happened twice in 36 years. I mean, it's a very expensive investment where we're already paying humans to be here, and we have tape measures in our truck and they're very cheap and they're just as effective because we're here.
Yeah.
So as
We can make decisions in real time because we are here taking that measurement and evaluating the data, and we can make mitigation efforts instantaneous.
And what you told me, Tim, is that what used to be the low point where we were comfortable measuring those manholes, because if those manholes were within your criteria, you knew you were okay.
Right.
This event now tells us we've got a different area that we need to monitor.
Right.
And so we're reacting that way.
We had completely different hydraulics with the April event than we did with the August event. We had more impact from overland stormwater than we did in August. So the August storm, the ground was able to absorb a lot of the initial rain because we were kind of in a drought period. If you recall, it was very dry last August. The April event, the rains hit when we were super saturated from a March thaw and a very slow arriving spring. The river was already swollen. Jefferson Ditch was already above normal freeboard, and we just didn't have the storage in April to handle all the rain.
Okay, that's all I have. Thanks for listening to the residents' perspectives. Obviously, you can tell there's been a lot of anxiety and pain caused, so thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
I have a couple of questions, actually, probably two. Tom Willard at N106 W17355 Wildflower Lane. What I think we're looking for now, if we only had 100-year flood, some of us, this will be our third time redoing our basement. If this was you, would you redo your basement? You wouldn't do it? Jan, would you do it?
No, I don't have a finished basement anyway.
Okay. That being said, is there anything, one of the questions that I'd asked, so this is my second question, when I came up last time, I asked if we could think out of the box for those that were truly impacted, especially by the second one, Juniper. What can we do? I guess maybe we don't have to answer it now, but maybe that's what we're looking for, because we're just looking for an answer. We don't know what to do now. We don't. We've got houses that destroyed walls in the bottom. We don't know what to do. Do we finish it? Do we tear everything out? We just have an unfinished basement? That's what we're looking for now.
Yeah, I mean, I wish we had a crystal ball. I mean, if we get another 1,000-year flood, we're gonna be, you know,
1,000 years different. I'm just saying 100-year. That's
Yeah.
what the question is here. Is it
and that might
100-year?
be the new norm. Who knows?
You're
Yeah.
right. And that came up too, but we're looking for some guidance. I think all of you said no, you wouldn't redo your,
No, I definitely wouldn't, but I also think that we are doing what we can and we're gonna continue to look into it.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm not challenging that. So that does say that there's a problem then for us on Juniper and Wildflower Lane at least then, right?
Mm.
Yes or no?
What was the sump pump thing that, Tim, you said last time that would help? A valve of some sort or?
So as a homeowner, you gotta kind of look at your particular home, your neighborhood, what could potentially impact you, right? Like we
Sure.
look at trees that might be hanging over our roof
Understand.
and we bring in a tree trimmer to cut it before it damages our roof, right? So,
And Tim, you're right, but we can control that.
right,
Yeah.
so we can't control what Mother Nature can potentially do. But what we can do is, okay, we got hit twice. We know there's things such as backwater valves that help. They're not foolproof by any means.
Sure.
We can make our homes more resilient by, I forget your name. Steve, we were out by Steve's house early last week walking a private drainage easement. And we pointed out to Steve that the way his sump pump is connected came through a pipe semi-buried in his yard out to that private drainage easement. And he shared with us that the water was so deep that night that it was halfway to his basement foundation wall. Well, we know that that sump pump could not push against all that water that was in his yard that night.
And we
It's
raised
physically
all the waters
impossible.
in August to address that. So that's what we thought we overcame that.
Right, so looking at his home, he does have a clean out on the outside of his house where he could have put
Yeah.
another hose. Now, given that April 14th night, me, like most of you, I was in my basement because there was a tornado warning going on,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
The bulk of the rain fell while all of us were in our basements
Right.
doing what we're supposed to do when those sirens go off.
Yeah.
So as a homeowner, if it was my house, I'd be looking at some of those resilience things that I could do to protect my stuff if I choose to finish my basement again. Would I put carpeting in? Probably not. You know, I would look at alternative flooring.
Would you consider us not paying for water and sewer? Considering we can never get fixed if there's a 100-year flood, pretty much. I mean, we're gonna have the problem. I mean, again, I'm just asking for the group to think out of the box and come up with proposals to us. We're just looking for guidance right now. We're looking for somebody who'll cover us for insurance. We're looking for everything. So nobody's doing that. So if you can help us out, that would be great. And I know you guys are trying to do your best, but we're looking for answers right now. That good? Fair.
I mean, a lot of the resilience things that a homeowner can do, such as having a mechanical plug you screw into your floor drain when stuff is happening, right? You have to be home in order to have these options be effective.
Right. That is a
Right.
good point.
And like I said earlier, we don't know when Mother Nature is going to throw a curveball at us.
Right.
We went 30 some years without it happening. The last two events that I recall in my career was back in 96 and 97, you know, which triggered the construction of the ponds in 98. So we know we're coming into a dredge cycle again of the Jefferson ditch. Will that help? It'll help, but it only helps with storage. You can only store so much because your limiting factor is how much we can get out of those ponds to the river.
I agree with that. It's just that our group will always be impacted the worst by the 100-year flood, whatever that might be. And we're just looking for options. One of the things that might be beneficial though is, Tim, if you could provide a list for all the residents of those things we could do for our home that falls within the Germantown guidelines or whatever the rules are. So at least we're looking at all these options so we can find something else, right?
Mhm.
I really appreciate that. And again, I'll ask the same question next meeting too. Are we thinking out of the box? What can we do? Because we're really looking for the help right now. Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate your support.
Anyone else?
Cabbage and 106 W17385 Wildflower Lane, Germantown. One thing that you're not making use of is there's a bridge across the Division Road. And you got the creek going through there. It goes about a half mile. One time you guys had dredged it out, so it was really deep but now it's down to where I can walk down the middle of it and not even get my feet wet at all. Because it all filled up. You know, they could dig that out and then there'd be a more spot for holding the water. It's just a suggestion about it, but
You know where that is?
Yeah, so as stated earlier, we're aware of the scour that occurred in August and pushed all that stone down into the forebay by the bridge where you,
yeah, it was even getting filled up before that though.
right, and that's part of the design of that forebay is to capture the sediment before it gets out into the successive ponds so that we're always releasing the cleanest water possible to the river. That's part of the DNR regulations to have ponds like that. It's no different than the stormwater retention pond that's part of a subdivision. It stores that rainwater and it releases it back at a 10-year rate. So hopefully there's a certain amount of settlement and filtration that occurs so that the water being released is cleaner, hopefully, than the water that went in. Because you're capturing all the pollutants off the road and garbage from people's yards and, you know, just the litter that's in the neighborhood that ends up in the storm sewer. So the Jefferson ditch ponds do the same thing, only on much larger scale because it's capturing 2 square miles.
Still though, I don't see why you haven't cleaned, you know, you should be able to get a lot more use out of that than what you're using it for now.
Right, it's coming up on that next dredge cycle,
Oh, okay.
right? So I think dredging or Jefferson ditch maintenance is programmed for 2028. I think there's $750,000 in the capital budget to do another cleaning of those ponds like we did 15 years ago.
Okay.
They'll measure the depth of sediment in them and they'll, whatever we need to do to take them back to their original functionality.
He hardly gets his feet wet walking through there.
You have to come up, sir. Come up to the microphone if you're going to speak.
Thank you. No, that's great. Thank you.
You have to fill out a yellow slip as well.
Yes, is anything gonna happen with our property taxes? Because the value of our homes have gone down probably between $75,000 and $100,000.
I don't know that we control that.
Yeah, I can't speak for an
No.
assessor,
Oh,
but certainly if you had a finished basement and you're not gonna refinish it, that would get removed from living space. So
well, I figured I got about $30,000. I had it grow out on the front lawn. You guys came and picked it up. But I got the whole basement was linoleum and all the studs and all that. They're there, but not the walls. And Surf Pro came in and gutted it all out. So I'm talking about another 35,000. So I'm probably out 65, and I don't, and that brings the value of the house down. I would think, you know, as far as property taxes go. But you said you didn't know anything about that, though. Huh?
Well, if you look online, we don't have that, I don't have the phone number with me. I don't know if anybody else can look it up. But our assessor's phone number is on the Germantown website and you can call him and explain your situation. He's the person that would do that, the assessor. Yeah, we wouldn't unfortunately be able to help you with that.
Now, you do plan on putting bigger pipes in under the road or in case we have another flood like this?
no.
No?
No, as we just discussed this evening, that there's no putting bigger pipes in that would not help control this. No.
I wouldn't.
Oh dear.
Alright. I know one of the neighbors, I'm not gonna say who, but, when it went on, I guess they stuffed rags down the hole. That moved it toward me. So I got about 22 inches worth of garbage water in my basement, so. Anyway,
The assessor's office phone number is area code
He
9.
doesn't have a pen.
Can somebody take it down for him?
so.
Thank you. 920-749-1995. And if I'm remembering correctly, the assessor, the Board of Review, they're holding some time this week, I
That
thought,
has nothing to do with this though. No.
not us. But that's the assessor's phone number.
Anyone else? Keep an eye on the agendas. I don't know if you you knew that to come tonight. We're going to be having another update. We'll see how long it takes us to get MMSD in here to answer some questions. I am sure that they're getting questions from a lot of surrounding communities, and I would love to hear a presentation about what they might be able to do to help us. They also control a lot of that green space in Germantown that's supposed to absorb water, and be interesting to get their perspective on that, whether that's enough or what we might be able to do in the future. We'll do our best to contact the DNR too and see if these people ever talk. I personally would like to see if developers should be doing a pond, that's the 200-year pond. I guess we've only had 2 of these weather events, but if anybody watches weather around the country, we know that things are different. Their storms are more severe, and I think I would not doubt that we'd have another big storm at some point. So I think these questions do need to be addressed, and we will once again do the best we can from our perspective and continue to pursue this and see what answers we can find. And thank you all for coming tonight and for sharing. We appreciate it. We'll move on then to our next agenda item, which is new business, Dombrock relocation order appraisal rebuttal.
Okay, so the Division Road Phase 1 reconstruction required relocation orders and appraisals on 4 properties to accommodate an extension of sidewalk, which also required some additional pipe work. Staff met with concerned residents, Mary Dombrock, who's here tonight, and Tom Truce, both who expressed an unwillingness to execute the relocation orders and appraisals unless the village would absolve them of any maintenance responsibility of the new sidewalk. Per the updated sidewalk ordinance, they would become responsible for the winter maintenance of the sidewalk. It is staff's recommendation to stop the sidewalk at Ava Circle and install a crosswalk at that location to direct pedestrian traffic back to the east side of Division Road. The crosswalk was originally proposed to go all the way down to Lilac Lane. The sidewalk cannot continue south on the west side of Division Road because there are wetland impacts to do a ditch enclosure there, and the DNR would not let us do that as part of this project. So either way, the sidewalk has to end either at Lilac or at Ava Circle. And pedestrian traffic has to go back to the east with a crosswalk at that location. The reduction eliminates the concerns of the Dombrocks and the Truces and will only require a quantity reduction in the bid tab, which will reflect the savings for the overall project in the amount of approximately $75,000. And it would further eliminate the need for additional temporary limited easements on both properties and also negate the Dombrock tree compensation. So if you look, Mary Dombrock submitted a letter. Our appraiser appraised her trees at $1,025 per tree. She's requesting $2,500 per tree. I went out and looked at the 4 trees impacted. They are both old growth. 2 of them are blue spruce, and the other 2 appear to be some sort of a Norway spruce. All 4 are well over 60 feet tall and have a trunk diameter in excess of 2 feet.
Tree.
So all 4 of those trees would have to be removed to accommodate the sidewalk extension. So she's seeking additional compensation per tree. And her largest complaint was having to take on the maintenance of the sidewalk. So with that, I'll turn it over to committee for discussion. And I do have Joe in the back. He's the design engineer in-house for this project, and he has a detailed plan where he can show you where the existing sidewalk is. And essentially it is a sidewalk to nowhere because it just basically goes from Virginia Lane to the end of Virginia Highlands property.
Personally, I think this is a really good solution, but I will invite the committee to talk.
I'd
Dan?
like to have our expert just show us and explain this map a little bit better.
And how it
There's no
works and why it's wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, but I just want to know what the blue lines. Joe,
Moment while I get it up.
got to plug in. No.
I wouldn't want to lose those big trees either. Surprise screen, the road and everything.
Yeah, so here we have a plat map, which was put together for the Dombach and Truce properties. This is at the corner of Lilac and Division. As you can see, this shaded area here, kind of where my mouse is, that would be the temporary land easement area that we were able to determine was necessary in order to install the sidewalk, as well as provide some updates to yard grading and storm sewer so that the existing sidewalk, which is to the right of the screen here, that runs along all the way up to Virginia, connect down to Lilac there. And then based on the appraisal and the feedback we got, we determined that we could avoid all that and put a crosswalk in at the Ava intersection north of these properties as a solution to avoid that, which would be a cost savings for us as well. So
Is that to the left?
yeah, so the existing here, let's see if I have a better.
We have Joe, we have the map that was included in the
Oh,
packet.
yeah, you have
the
it
one
there.
you
Okay.
created.
Yeah, so existing sidewalk is here where my mouse is. If you
Okay, all right.
So originally our plan was to put sort of an S curve down here and then bring it in front of these properties down to Lilac. Have a crossing from Lilac corner to Hawthorne. And instead of that, we were thinking, okay, get rid of that and put the crossing here at Ava to connect over to the east side here. It can be either be on the north side or the south side of this Ava circle.
So the two properties in question
Yep.
are on the
West
e-
side.
west side?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this is Ava. Okay, right. So you're just moving it further north.
Yep, so basically the crosswalk would cross instead of at Lilac, it would go up to the south entrance at Ava Circle.
So, but you would put the regular crosswalk that we have now with the slashes or.
Correct, yeah, it would be striped and,
That's right.
I mean,
Truncated domes and a ramp for ADA.
Okay, great.
yeah, so all of that, all of the compliance with the curb ramps and crossings, pavement markings, all that stuff would be
And the-
designed out and included with the
As well as additional
change.
signage saying pedestrian crossing.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And it, but we can, and we can see the current sidewalk / trail
Mhm.
on the opposite side.
Yeah, you can, on the colored document. in the
Right.
Packet, you can see the light blue indicates where we could do the proposed crosswalks
Okay,
off of the existing path.
Yeah.
And then, the purple on the west side was the impacted area of both of these
Mhm.
properties.
right. So then we wouldn't have to, there essentially won't be any sidewalk in front of them.
Correct, because it has to terminate
Right.
at Lilac Lane anyhow,
Correct.
because we can't do a ditch enclosure to the south.
And there isn't one now, so it's not like we're losing
Right,
anything.
no, I know.
I'll entertain a motion.
But it's,
I'll just from memory, I don't have it up right now. I'll make a motion to approve option 1, which is alternative 1, which brings that crosswalk into the end of the curb return. Yeah, closer to the intersections. I don't like crosswalks getting away from intersections. It's dangerous.
mhm.
So I'll make a motion to approve no, I don't have the wording, but to approve putting the crosswalk, going with location number 1 as shown on that exhibit and not pursuing the relocation order on that.
You're putting the sidewalk at Ava Circle
As proposed.
Do you
as
see- Do you
proposed,
see the exhibit?
yes, or the,
Do you see where it says location 1?
For clarification.
Yeah.
We want it on the north side of Ava Circle or the south side of Ava
Where
Circle.
do you want it?
One or the other, I don't care, as long as it's close to the
Um,
intersection.
So we'll
How
look at
far-
sightline and make a determination.
Mhm.
yes,
Yeah.
whatever works better.
Look at both options, but ideally I agree tying it into either the north or south where there's that existing curb ramp.
Yep, that's where
Right.
you expect to see crosswalks.
Yeah.
Right. And it, on the left side of the blue lines, that property, is that where that development's gonna go? Or am I wrong? Oh, that's just the empty stuff. Oh, yeah,
And
that's,
that's the current vacant lot that's part of Virginia Highlands.
gotcha.
Do we have a second?
I'll
I'll
second.
second.
I got it first. My turn. Any further discussion?
I would just say that normally I would resist doing things like this just because of cost and trees, when it comes down to safety, I understand old age trees are very valuable in that, but if it comes down to safety, pedestrian safety and that. But the point being, the big point is that you can extend this another X amount of feet to Lilac and then you just move the dead end. So it doesn't make sense to pay that cost and put the property owner through angst for something that really won't benefit the project. So,
Further discussion?
Let's
Hearing none,
res-
we'll vote. All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Going on to B, award of a contract to Farner Asphalt Sealers for the 2026 road program not to exceed the budgeted amount of $250,000.
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Discussion. Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? It's unanimous. Moving on to C, award of contract to Payne and Dolan for the Division Road Phase 1 improvements in a total amount, including a 10% contingency, not to exceed $2.341,449,000.10.
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second. Out of the fund that is listed.
Okay. So I have motion and a second. Discussion.
Yeah, what is this fund? Do you know what the fund is? from?
Yeah, this is the annual road program capital fund.
Fund, okay,
And
thank
this
you.
is just phase 1 of Division Road. Remember that
That's
we're
right.
doing that in 2 phases
Right,
for affordability.
absolutely.
Hard to say affordability when this is over too, but
I mean,
it is affordability.
ah,
Okay, we shall vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. D, professional services agreement with R.A. Smith for Division Road Phase 1 inspection in an amount, including 10% contingency, not to exceed $184,800. Entertain a motion?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Discussion. Bob?
Well, we'd like to be able to do inspections internally, but we just don't have staff for that. It's a pretty high profile project and need some experience out there. If you take any of our staff, free up anybody like Joe or Jake to do it, now we're falling behind on our project designs for next year. We just don't have the staff to do that. Familiar with this firm. I've worked with them a lot. They have the expertise. They're going to be real efficient. It's pretty much just one guy out there who can handle it, even though there may be multiple crews out there. But should be able to handle that. So I think it's really the only way to go. Have that experience out there and free up our staff and relieve Tim from some headaches.
Yeah, if they happened in a different year, it'd be a different scenario, but right now we just cannot handle it in-house.
Yeah.
Further discussion. Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. And that brings us to the director's report. What would you like to highlight, Tim, that we need to know?
So in engineering, the road program, including the 2026 roads along with the seal coat program, will begin mid-June. Also keep in mind that DOT has a project going that'll impact Germantown this year, and that is the roundabout at Highway G and 145, which is also going to be kicking off mid-June. Expect a full closure in that area.
Probably just before school starts. The Pleasant View culvert replacement, which is part of an ARIP program from 2 years ago. The reason that got delayed was the need to replace the bridge structure over the Menominee River there. And we're working through permitting with the DNR to get that permitted. We're looking at summer bid and fall construction into winter are typically the best times to work on bridges on rivers because the flows are low. The Maple Road Bridge repair over Willow Creek, you guys approved that last meeting to move forward with that repair. So design is ongoing and hopefully we'll be bringing bid prices back for the repair for the Maple Road Bridge. County Highway Q and State Highway 175 intersection signal replacements. This is a HISIP grant, which stands for Highway Safety Improvement Program. It's based on traffic accidents or crashes at a particular intersection. We qualified for the signal upgrade. Our consultant recommended we wait until late summer to bid this work. And hopefully we should get some better pricing because most portfolios are full for the year already. And we're not in jeopardy of losing the grant if we postpone a few months.
Is that Patty's recommendation?
Yes.
Okay.
New engineering tech, Mark Johnson, started Monday, June 1st. He's a retired City of Milwaukee police officer who put himself through school to become an engineering technician. He's double associate degree, one in survey and the other in civil engineering technology. We welcome him into the fold and get him up to speed, and hopefully we get him out on projects quickly. Highways, parks, buildings and grounds, full spring mode with mowing operations, and mowing operations are transitioning to summer help as we get our college kids back for the summer, freeing up full-time people to do other projects on a never-ending list. Mastic application to address road sediment around manholes and inlets and water valves is wrapping up. Brush pickup began Monday, June 1st. It'll take approximately 4 weeks to complete. We start on the east side of the village and work our way west. We kind of like Donjas Bay Road is your north cutoff for the initial round, and then it becomes Mequon Road, and we work the village east to west for both phases, and then we move up into the rural areas towards the end of pickup because there's typically not as much up in that area. The streetlight fixture replacement is underway and will be ongoing throughout the summer as time allows. We replaced another failed road culvert in Happy Hollow last week. Highway Department did that work in-house. Like was stated earlier, that line item in the budget is completely exhausted due to some major culverts that we've had to replace. Fireman shelter repair, Jan, you'll be happy to hear this, that it is fully underway and it'll be well completed by July 4th.
Thank you.
If I could
Flower.
add, I was there today. I think they're done, actually. Looks really good.
Good.
It's gonna,
'Cause I just saw it last week, like Thursday, and it looked like it
Really
needed
bad.
help.
that thing will be,
I'll just be nice.
that'll last at least 10 years.
Yeah, that's what we
You
think.
shouldn't put a date on it.
I won't.
No,
do that.
but I'm hoping to get 5 out of it.
Well, at least we'll have it for the 4th of July.
Absolutely.
That was our goal, so.
Yep.
So flower source remediation and demo will resume on June 9th. And it should be completed by month's end. There still is some asbestos abatement to occur in the house with flooring in the basement that was identified. But now we're at a point where we can concurrently start demo as we complete remediation. So there'll be multiple activities going on at that site.
Please tear that thing down.
And we're down one person in the highway, parks, buildings and grounds area due to a retirement of a long-term employee. In the water utility, hydrant flushing was completed. They're actively working on commercial meter replacements, and there's 400 residential meters scheduled to be replaced throughout this year. As a result of doing the annual hydrant flushing, we compile a list of hydrants that need repair throughout the village. So there are crews working on hydrant repairs as time allows, and also required valve exercising. Yes.
Just a dumb question. What kind of repairs is it usually a valve on a hydrant or?
No, it's typically a seat that doesn't seal back down when they close it, so it leaks.
Leaky?
Yeah,
Okay.
it becomes a leaky hydrant, and that's just
And-
more water loss.
And the residential meter replacements, are those gonna be the cellular ones?
Yes, everything is moving cellular, so
These will be Cellular.
yep, so their residential meters are typically on a 10-year cycle. So
Okay.
this is another 400. Wastewater utility, we're wrapping up wet well cleaning. We're jetting area 3, which is the greater Old Farm area. Yard waste is obviously a very busy place at this time of the year. People are continuing to take mulch and compost at record rates. Sanitary sewer service area is under DNR review with a letter forthcoming, hopefully with our meeting, after our meeting next week with them, we'll get some traction and get that back on track. And then the collection system facilities plan is on hold pending the SSSA, and the Main Street and Old Farm facilities plan is on hold to the DNR pending SSSA and CSFP approval, the collection system facilities plan. And we are down one operator in the wastewater utility due to a promotion of Travis to backfill my superintendent position. So we are actively recruiting for a new employee in the wastewater utility, and that is my report.
Any questions for Tim on the report specifically on anything? We don't want to cover stuff that's not on the agenda, obviously.
Mhm.
Okay, well, seeing there are none, let's set our next meeting date. And it's actually come to my attention that I'm not around on June 3rd, July 3rd, I believe, First. July 1st. Yes, I will not be back until July 2nd. So can we move this next meeting to the 8th, which would be the following week? I assume a lot of people might be wanting to vacation that week anyway.
The plan commission, 6:30.
I'm sorry,
Plan commission.
Plan Commission, 6:30.
on Wednesday,
No,
the 8th?
you're thinking of the June, next Monday.
Yeah, Wednesday,
Sorry.
the first Wednesday would be the first, which would be our normal, and then the 8th would be the one I'm looking at, 5:30 PM. Work for you, Jan?
I don't have Mid-Marine anymore, but, isn't that somebody else's date?
No, nobody has Wednesday. We're the only Wednesday people.
I can't do Wednesday, that Wednesday.
Can you,
Can't do that Wednesday, you can't do Tuesday.
Tuesday the 7th.
Probably not.
No. No, what, how about you, Jan? Can you do the 8th? We may have to, just do this without Bob.
Eighth, I'm there.
How about you let me get with the clerk tomorrow and find out what dates are open that week of July 6th?
Okay, I can't do the 9th, I know that.
Oh,
I have
I can't
church
either.
thing.
I think,
Yeah.
I have something in the.
the board is going to be the 6th,
Right, we could maybe do it before the board that night on the 6th.
not if,
No.
we'll have to push storm update then to August, because
We could push storm up to August, because how much are we gonna get done with the holiday in there?
There's
And to
some,
get MMSD scheduled to present That's not happening in 2
There's
weeks.
public safety normally in front of,
Right.
Oh, on the first,
on
on
the
Monday?
6th. Yeah.
Well, take a look at, Tuesday, Bob can't make it. Can you, Bob? It's nothing you could do to make it on Tuesday, right?
No.
And you're out, and he's out the 8th.
He's out the 8th. Pardon? Well, then, yeah, that's almost like running into the next month, you know, but I guess if we.
There
have to, right?
might be Park and Rec. They do Wednesdays.
Yeah.
But
Who's
they
on Park and
just-
Rec? You?
Not me, no.
Oh, you're on Park and Rec. You
No.
are.
Let me get with the clerk.
Yeah, give us some options if you would.
We'll look at,
We'll look at the 15th possibly.
Yeah, that could work for me, I know. 14th or 15th. 13th, 14th or 15th.
That gives you 3 weeks until the next meeting. in August.
Yeah.
You've got 3 weeks.
Okay, but I mean, I could do a Monday too, if Mondays are easier, because I know people have things going on during the week.
13, 14, and 15 are open.
How about you, Jim? 13th?
The
No.
reason,
No, it's not. That's the beauty of it.
This should be, is one of these a Wednesday?
The 13th is a Monday. Just to move it up into the month as much as we can before the meeting in
But
August.
that's when GGF is.
No, that's on the 20th.
Oh, it is?
So
Oh, yeah,
13th is a
6:20.
Open Monday night.
is there gonna be, is there gonna be a board meeting on the 29th? I don't think so, because it's an extra Monday in June.
29th.
In June?
Yeah, if we had July's Public Works meeting on Monday, June 29th.
Oh.
we wouldn't have time to push
we
any-
don't
Yeah,
have-
no, that's not gonna work because I'm trying to get,
We want MMSD in it. It's that.
and I want to
Yeah.
have bid prices back
That's
for
right.
Pleasant View, which is why we're
So it
pushing
has
it
to
to the
be,
8th.
right, that's where, one of the reasons we're pushing it. Let's shoot for the 13th, Monday, the 13th,
Or
at
the,
5:30
or the week of
PM.
the 13th.
Or the 15th?
The 13th, okay, then the
Yeah.
15th.
15th.
Let me get with Donna. and
Ask her
see
about
what
the 15th.
Can't do
15th
the
looks
15th?
like.
Let's
We
tentatively
gotta make sure that
hold
there's
it.
nothing else.
Okay, let's just say tentatively the 15th at 5:30 PM. This shouldn't be that hard. Or we may be,
We're
or we may be
busy
skipping a
people.
meeting. No, Wednesdays are like just us for the most part.
It's Park and Rec.
On Wednesday?
Okay, with that, we will close this meeting at 7:22 PM. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. And Tim, can you talk to that guy?
It just was about the one that, yeah.
When is it due?
It's just That's a resolution. Why?
None of this stuff in the board.
No, I know, but do they take on it? So usually they say, let's get your stuff in and we're on the wire. Beer. Fit.
Just go just get it.
Question about that, you could go over, is we get a place to review strictly the traffic. You know, so then I come up or I get to ask it for, when I said it. It's an additional. Yes. Just gives us more capacity than most. Creating sure here. No, 4 months meeting.